And here is Nicole Car. Nicole is actually talking to us from Paris, and I'm in Paris myself, and I didn't realize that. The last time I believe I saw Nicole was in Dallas, at the Dallas Opera, where we performed together Marriage of Figaro, and Nicole is of Australian origin, but this not the Figaro about now more than 5, maybe more years ago.
More.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
It was Nicole triumphal American debut. There is a huge history of great Australian soprano making a big international career. So you are on that path. And what was your first connection to music in Australia? Did you learn it at school? Were you coming from a family that was a musical family?
Not at all. I came from, I wouldn't say an unmusical family, but definitely, I didn't learn an instrument growing up. I went to public schools, which were great, but didn't have very much of a focus on classical music, that's for sure. I really honestly thought I was going to be a jazz singer. In high school, I loved jazz. I trained as that. And then they do these very large...
Jazz? What happened? What was your connection to jazz? You just heard it?
Well, so the public school that I went to had one singing teacher, and she happened to be a jazz specialist. And so she started playing, like Nina Simone and Ella Fitzgerald and Sarah Vaughan and Diane Reeves and all these really, really amazing singers. And I loved the flexibility that they had in their voices, and I loved the emotion that they could portray in their voices, which, isn't so dissimilar to what we do in the classical world anyway. But I really liked the freedom that came with improvisation and working with, concert bands and swing bands and things. And so I really thought that's what I was going to do. And then when I was 17, they do these very large arena things in high school for the public schools. And so I auditioned and was a soloist for that. And the musical director heard me sing, and he's like, I actually think that your voice will lend itself more to classical music than to jazz. Do you know anything about opera?
Was that a compliment or a reproach?
I hope it was. I've always thought it was a compliment. Let's hope so.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Yeah.
Well, I think my voice had kind of started to develop a very natural vibrato, and I had power. I had a powerful voice, and so they suggested that I go and at least listen to an opera, keep my mind open to possibilities. So I'd never even heard any opera before. And so I took myself off and went and saw Tosca that happened to be playing in Melbourne at the time. And my God, I fell in love with it straight away, like from the first chord.
Oh yeah, I know exactly the feeling. As I say, it's like a vampire who has been deprived from blood his whole childhood, and then he tastes it for the first time and say, oh, that's who I am, that's what I need.
Exactly. And you sit there, you're like, how is this possible? Number one, how have I never experienced this before? And how can I experience it more was kind of the thought process as I was sitting there. And I swear to you, like directly after that Tosca, I rang a friend who was learning from a singing teacher classically and asked her for the singing teacher's number. And like a week later, I started having classical singing lessons.
And how did this lesson go? I mean, the teacher said the first lesson, oh, Nicole, you are going to sing, which you are doing now at the Metropolitan in Covent Garden and in Munich. You have a voice. And by the way, you need to take a lesson a day with me. Or did she say, well, you know what? Don't quit your day job. Or studies.
Well, it was really interesting. She's a very clever woman, very, very clever. And she knew about my jazz training. And so she gave me a couple of like Purcell pieces to learn that had coloratura in them. And so automatically my body and my brain kind of made this link between scatting and coloratura.
Right.
And I loved it. I found such a freedom in singing it. And she gave me 3 pieces to learn, a very small aria from Bellini, like a not written for an opera, very, very tiny, the Purcell piece and a Schubert song. And I spent 3 months learning them. And then after that, I auditioned for university and somehow, without any other experience, managed to get in because I think they just saw some form of raw potential.
And you learned to read music when you were studying jazz, or you learned?
No, well, I mean, yes and no. We had to do a part like musicality. It was part of the course, but not a lot. So it was a steep learning curve when I entered university. I had to do remedial, they call it musical technique in the first year. And I worked, oh my gosh, did I work hard, because I didn't want to be so far behind everyone. And even now, like I have I have real hang-ups because I don't think my sight reading is as good as a lot of other people who maybe studied, earlier than I did.
I mean, what is interesting to me is that obviously artistry is not some necessarily to do with musical education in general, in terms of being able to really read well music or play an instrument. Of course, it's to help you develop your artistry if you are fluent in reading music and so on. But I have known people, we have the French system is solfège, which is a certain way of learning the notes, reading fa sol la si do, and the Anglo-Saxon system is with letters, and there are merits to both systems. But I have known people who are not fluent in this and who are absolutely brilliant musicians. They have a way of phrasing, of understanding what's working and not working, if it's in tune or not in tune. And I've known people who are really very, very good sight reader who play the piano, but who are still unable to really phrase well. So that is not a way to judge the musicianship of someone.
No, exactly. And I think there's something, if you're going to be a good musician, there's something that exists inside of you, outside of education, outside of anything that anyone can teach you. There has to be, I don't know, if you believe in souls, there has to be something in your soul that dictates that that's what you need to do.
You need to cultivate this.
Of course.
Scheme this. You need to bring it out. You might have all these qualities, but if you are not exposed to it, and even through the pain and the bruises of going through a role, then it doesn't work. And at university, you studied singing and music theory and so on and so on and so on and so on. And what's the next step?
Well, I was really lucky. I've had a lot of lucky breaks very early on in my career. And so when I finished university, I thought I would take 6 months to kind of just have some lessons and see whether I wanted to do a master's, what I wanted to do. And in those 6 months, they changed management at Opera Australia, the main company in Australia. And the director there was looking to change direction. And so I ended up coming in, and oh gosh, I really shouldn't have said yes. Only a 21-year-old person says yes to this. But I said yes to covering Madame Butterfly in a tour that they were doing. So I never actually sang it, but I did learn it. A smart decision, I think. But so I ended up doing that, and that kind of got me into the Young Artist program then at Opera Australia. And so my education after that was really kind of hands-on and very much like sur scène, very much on stage, lots of language classes. And I went and studied like language. I studied Italian language in Rome for a while. And I got a lot of kind of supplementary educational things coming in while I was, being thrown on stage all the time, which was a great learning experience.
Well, and you're a very smart colleague and singer, and so you're absorbing things, obviously. And did you right away know? I mean, they were having you cover Butterfly, which I think you are not singing yet, correct?
No.
So did you know then what your repertoire was going to be? Did you have wishes as to who, I want to sing Sieglinde or Isolde and nothing else? Or Barbarie was your ultimate goal? What's the story?
I think every singer has dreams, right? Like you hear an opera, like, I don't know, some people hear Wagner and they think that's all I ever want to do, or, that's one day I will be able to sing that. And for me, it's always been kind of the big Verdis and the big Puccinis. But as we can see, I haven't sung any of them yet. Like, I really am very happy to take my time.
Well, and there are a lot of examples. I mean, Nicole, now you sing, correct me if I'm wrong, you sing Micaela, you sing Leila, you sing Bohème, I suppose, already,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
pass, to something. I've seen you are singing Thais, actually. Thais is getting large, I mean, there are several ways.
Thais' big repertoire. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I sing a lot of Tatiana's as well, and Marguerite and Faust. Like it's bigger repertoire, especially in bigger houses.
Right, right. And so do you have a plan with this, or the voice is going to tell you what to do? Because one of the difficulties for you guys is that you know outside of COVID time, you plan 3 years in advance, sometimes even 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Know where the voice is going to be, and you cannot say no to the Met if they offer you a part that's maybe too big for you now vocally.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you can. Okay, that's good. And
No,
so,
I mean, you have to, Emmanuel, because even if that's one of the big, like,
yeah,
very early on in my career, an ex-singer said to me, the no's in your career are going to be much more important than the yeses. And so every time an offer comes in, even if it is for 3, 4, 5 years down the track, you have to really think, like, what repertoire am I doing around it at that time? Have I already accepted something big for that season that I'll need to work on? Is singing that particular role in this particular house going to be the right move for me? There's so many things you have to think about before you accept it, because of course, the Met comes and offers you Traviata. You want to say yes. Tosca, yeah,
well,
you want to say yes.
I mean, probably the Met actually knows what you can do or not.
Of
This
course.
is yes, of course, but other houses that we're not going to name don't necessarily know it. Do you have someone who is checking on your voice technique? Do you work with a teacher? So I have to say to the people who don't know you, the very few who would not know you, that your partner is Etienne Dupuis, who is a very wonderful baritone himself. So I guess he's checking a little on how you sound. But do you work with a teacher, or you leave that to Etienne and your own judgment?
Well, I mean, a lot of it, because of in non-COVID times, we travel so much together and we're in a lot of different cities together. A lot of it is on him, and he can kind of sit in the theater and hear how things are going. And I mean, when you're living with someone, their ears pick up on even the slightest changes in your voice, the slightest things that you're doing. And so I trust him implicitly. So I'm really lucky in that respect. I have a great teacher in Australia and a really great teacher in New York as well that I see when I'm back. Deb Birnbaum's amazing, like the breath expert of the century. And my first teacher, Anna Connolly, who also knows my voice inside and out, that I see in Australia. But so much of it when we're traveling around has to be left to us. And I guess trusted coaches in the houses, if you can find them, depending on how often you work there.
Or even conductors sometimes?
Well, yes, absolutely. But the conductors, I mean, I've been really fortunate in that I've worked with some great, great conductors, you being one of them. And they understand that even though they might be doing the same repertoire, different voices will sing things differently as well. And so it's such a delight when you can.
Yeah, and I think that's what's important. I mean, you were saying, you're talking of Marguerite in Faust. Well, the Marguerite of the first act and the Marguerite of the end is a totally different Marguerite. And actually, like Don José, the Don José of the Fleur and the Don José of the third act or the finale, it's a different type of tenor. And you need to accept that as a director of a theater or as a conductor, and so adapt the tempos to the voice you have and fix the orchestra. But sometimes it's difficult if you don't have the right cast around your voice, or if you don't have a conductor that understands this. How do you learn your roles? Do you work yourself on a little keyboard? I suppose you listen to a lot of recordings. What's your procedure?
I like to start with lots of different recordings because I like to hear what other singers have done musically, because I think that's a really important thing. And then I will work very, very hard, kind of scene by scene. It feels always so overwhelming. I don't know about you, but when I open up a score and I just look through the whole thing, depending on how big the role obviously is, but I look through it and I feel so overwhelmed if it's from the start to the end. So I like to pick kind of small scenes and maybe work on the biggest scene first, or because otherwise it takes time to get into your body as well. So you want to make sure that you've got that amount of time to learn it.
And for me, this is actually always stunning how you guys have to memorize, so much your roles that you're just free of doing them. And sometimes it's a lot of music, but then it looks like more on paper than it is in reality. Because when you do a coaching or a rehearsal with the singer and you do only his role, okay, we need 2 hours. And then if you don't stop, it's done in 25 minutes, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
It's a lot, and it's not that much. And then do you check with a pianist, with a coach, or you just go to the first rehearsal like this?
No. I work a lot with coaches, whatever city I'm in. If I can find a good coach, we have a fantastic coach in Montreal that we love to work with. I found a really, really great coach here in Paris. And so I call them whenever I'm in town, whenever I have time, and work the roles. And no, you need to have that feeling. You need to know. It's like you're saying, if you just learn your role, it might be like only half an hour of music, but then you want to know when the rest times are, and you want to know like what all of the other characters are going to be doing at the same time. And it's important for the collaboration, I think.
Sure, absolutely. Do you start having a understanding of the role and what you're going to do dramatically with it, kind of an opinion on what the scene is, or you just arrive to the first rehearsal and say, let's see what happens here?
I've kind of learned to be the latter, because I find that if you have too much of an idea of what you want to do as a character, then it leaves you less open to potentially what the director will want to be doing. And it's kind of nice, especially when it's new roles. I think it's really nice to be as much of a blank slate as possible, like really being the vessel, the conduit for the music and for the drama and the theater. I think that's
right.
That's what we do, right? We're interpreters.
Yeah, but you can also be with a director that is so much in love with voices that it doesn't bring too much in terms of staging. It says, please do it.
That's true. In which case, I'm very happy to take over.
Oh, you are? Okay, good.
Do what I feel. Yeah, of course. But yeah. I've worked with some great directors, and, I understand that if they do have very specific ideas, I want to make sure that I'm capable of doing them without my own kind of other ideas, maybe from productions, if it's not the first time I've done the role. Or
Right. So you sung the contest for me with us in Dallas, in the Not City Figaro, and there was something absolutely extraordinary in the genuine, authentic, very tender human quality you brought to the role. And I saw that balance between the freshness of your voice and what the character is, who in the end is a very strong character, of course, was very touching. What's your way of dealing with the poetry of a role, the dramatic aspect of the role, the emotions you can have on stage, and at the same time keeping the purity of the line, the musical control, and the vocal control? Do you think of those things when you rehearse? Do you think of when you are in performances?
In performances, I really try not to, because I think to be able to be as genuine as possible and as honest as possible as the character, it needs to come out like spoken, like the spoken words. You can't feel the technique that's working in the body and still believe as an audience that this is something genuine and spontaneous. So I think in terms of the rehearsals and things, that's the time to work that out. Like the rehearsals are the times to break down, because exactly, it's like really you're processing every single moment, so that when it comes to the performances, you can, for the audience, like the audience wants to feel the way that you're feeling. Like that's our job as artists, to be able to give them this moment of respite from the reality of life. And so my job and our job is to create this world for them. And so once we've done all that processing in rehearsals and making sure that, all of the months of work that we've done with coaches and by ourselves, working on lines and making sure everything's as fluid as possible, then when the performance moment arrives, it should, even for us on stage, feel so natural as well.
Right, I totally agree. Who are the singers you go to when you have to learn a role? And which is a slightly different question, who are the singers you admire the most of the present or the past?
Oh, there's so many. There's so many. I mean, Leontyne Price, I think, is one of the most extraordinary artists ever, ever, ever. Maybe the most, in my opinion. But I mean, you look at the artistry that Sutherland brought to all of her roles, and the technical aspects of what she did were just so precise and amazingly clear. Maybe less so language wise, but in terms of musically, it was incredible. And the line that Caballé brought
Yes,
to all of her singing, I mean,
the magic of the presence and the way all of a sudden having the music come out of this body was just incredible. All
exactly.
sopranos.
And it's,
You don't like basses, you don't like tenors, you don't like
I love them. I love them all, but I think I listen a lot to sopranos because I like to learn from them.
right.
I mean, I think if you're looking at technicians, Dmitry Vorostovsky was incredible. I feel so privileged that I had the chance to work with him and to sing Onegin with him. I mean, what
Right.
what an amazing experience that was. And it was, from what I understand, his last Onegin as well. But, you know, again, when we talk about line, you know, he just made it seem so effortless and so much kind of within him. It's just something that had to get out. And in terms of contemporary, my colleagues, I mean, I respect all of them so much in so many ways. You know, it's not a place to be envious when you're in this career. You know, you want to respect and enjoy the artistry in different ways that people bring, and you know, they're working at a certain level because they have a certain level of talent. And so, you know, I admire what Lisette Oropesa does. I admire what Eileen Perez does. I admire my friend Michael Fabiano and the colleagues that I work with that are very much into the drama and the artistry of the music are the colleagues that I tend to kind of revolve around more. But for instance, I saw last week the Pagliacci that they were doing at the Vienna Staatsoper, and Roberto Alagna was singing Canio, and it was incredible the way that he was so kind of in touch. Yeah.
And also the way he's smartly using the voice at his age and to be a total match with that role, you know. I mean, that's actually admirable. And I love all these singers, and I think this is terrific. What are the roles that you haven't sung yet and that you think you should sing and you're ready to sing, and those stupid conductors and cast them to you yet?
That I'm ready to sing right now? I mean, Desdemona. I really want to sing an Otello.
Oh, yeah, so cute, touching, you know. Yeah.
I would love it. I mean, I think I could absolutely sing it now. And it's just no one, they had like a run of Otellos in all of the houses about 3 years ago, and it hasn't seemed to come back yet.
Right. It's
I would kill for Otello.
And in 10 years, when the voice grows, most probably?
I would really love to sing a Marschallin. I would love to go into some Strauss. I mean, I think Tosca is and always will be on the cards. I mean, it's the first opera I ever saw, and it would definitely be something that I would love to sing. I always thought I'd love to sing.
Can you kill on stage? Have you ever done that?
I've never killed anyone on stage. I've been killed on stage many times.
And you want to do Desdemona again, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But it's like when you were speaking about the Countess so nicely, thank you. The roles that I tended to be cast in and that people see me doing are those kind of more touching, more human.
Right. That's what you emanate from you. But I guess that's what would make a Tosca interesting, actually, that that person has, you know, the power all of a sudden in her to kill the guy to save her lover.
Exactly. And
Uh,
it's like, I always think these ingenues, like they were written by these composers in a time that was very kind of full of men, but the inner strength and even sometimes the outer strength that we see, especially in, you know, Verdi and Puccini, and they're strong women, even if.
well, in Puccini, the women are much stronger than the men, and he
Mhm.
loved his heroine, and he identified to them, and they are the ones carrying, you know, the whole story, and
Exactly.
very strong way. Um, so let's move a little to another topic. How have you lived COVID? You're in Paris now, as I was
Mhm.
saying earlier. Were you in Paris when Hold started?
No, we were at the Met. I was doing a run of Così fan tutte, and Etienne was rehearsing Werther. And we had a performance of Così the Wednesday evening. And during the show, Donald Trump came out and made his announcement that he was closing the borders. And so we were pretty sure that that was it. And so the Thursday, they closed the theater. The Friday, we packed. The Saturday, we left. And then the Monday, we went into confinement in Paris
Right.
for 2 months.
Okay. Um,
It
how
was
have
very intense.
how have you lived that time? I mean, how have you survived the whole thing? What's your routine?
It's tough. I mean, we have a 3.5-year-old, almost 4-year-old actually. And he, you know, to try and explain to a 3-year-old that he can't leave the house and that he can't visit any friends, he's not allowed to touch anything or anyone, you know, that for us, I think was the most difficult. Like it was very hard staying confined for that
Mhm.
period of time. Like we have a very small Parisian balcony, and so we could go outside. Like I would set a little rug up, and we would go outside and play on our balcony for, you know, an hour a day just to get some sunlight. But I did, when Macron came out and made his announcement after the first month that we were going into a second month of confinement, I did cry because it was it was tough. It wasn't easy being inside and being so far away from family and not knowing, and every day new jobs would be cancelled as well, and you know.
Yeah. But on the other hand, the family is together more than ever. And so for the kid, it's extraordinary. I mean, he has both his parents for him, no?
Well, I mean, we have to take the positives from it, and
Mhm.
really there have been some wonderful ones in that as our little unit of 3, we've been able to be together the whole time. And Noah has started school, like he's going to school here in Paris, and we wouldn't have been able to do that without these times, without these cancellations. So that's, you know, that's a great positive, and it's given us a real chance to, I don't know about you, but it's given us a real chance to kind of reflect on the amount of travel that we were doing, and you know what we really want going forward in terms of
Right.
roles and work.
I mean,
And
we are seeing what's the purpose of all of this, what we do,
yeah.
what meaning of what are we running after. The irony, the cruel irony is that we were all looking for a sabbatical, for a downtime, and here it is imposed on us. It's not
Mm.
ours. We cannot do the things we would like to do if we had a sabbatical. So it's forced on us, and we cannot enjoy it. And I find that very hard to deal with. And at the same time, I've never been so busy, you know, doing Zoom and
Mm.
planning things, unplanning things, hoping for things, crying, and so on. I
Mm.
understand you are part of a foundation. Can you connect it to COVID? Can you tell us a little about this?
Yeah. So when as soon as we got back to Paris, actually, I was very aware that for freelance artists, this was going to be a really tough time because, as you just said, you know, it's this enforced sabbatical. So if you have time to plan that you're going to have these 12 months of not working, then maybe you can save up a little bit more, or, you know, we work contract to contract. And so I sat down and spoke with Etienne about it, and we decided to create a foundation called Freelance Artist Relief Australia. We decided to start with Australia because Australia is in the rare position that a lot of the arts funding doesn't come either from the government or philanthropy. It comes really from box office. And so a lot of the artists, when those contracts are thrown away, they have no way to earn a living, unlike the German system, for example. And so we created Freelance Artist Relief. And I mean, it's been amazing to see. Not only have we been able to raise quite a significant amount of money and help almost 100 singers, which I've been really, really, really happy about. But it's kind of shown artists in a time where the government has been very quick to forget that culture exists and forget that, you know, it's an industry that people need, even if it may not be, you know, the first industry people think of. It's given them kind of
essential. It is essential.
Of course it's essential. Of course. You tell me anyone who's been in confinement for 2 months and hasn't read a book, listened to music, watched a movie, had paintings in their house. You know, I mean, what point is life without the arts, right?
And so how do you raise the money? How do you do this?
With a lot of difficulty. I've learned very much on the business side of things for the last 8 months as well. And so we partnered with a group in Australia that let us be our own kind of separate entity while having charitable status, which has been incredible. And I wrote to everyone and anyone that I could think of about what was to come, because people thought it was just going to be a couple of weeks. And we saw straight away that it was going to be a long, long process. And even now, who knows? It's like you say, you know, you plan something and then next week it gets cancelled, and then maybe you plan something else.
Well, no, there is the latest news from today or yesterday is this vaccine seems to be working. So maybe things are going to, who knows, you know? Yeah. And the fund is directed specifically to Australian artists, correct?
At the moment, yeah, but we're looking, because I mean, this is very exceptional circumstances in terms of the pandemic and COVID, but as we both know, the life of a freelancer is not particularly secure, and there can be so many ups and downs. And so the plan eventually is to have it as international as possible, to make sure that, you know, when people are making the move to, you know, their US debut, for example, they get help to, you know, navigate the paths in terms of, you know, taxes and simple things that.
Sure. But so, and are you raising money worldwide for that fund?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's only tax deductible in Australia right now, which is unfortunate, but we're looking to.
You could have a foundation in the US, for instance, which would be the Friends of Australian, you know, whatever.
Exactly.
And then it would be deductible.
So yeah, so down the track, we're definitely looking at doing that in the US. We'd like to start up in France as well, because we have such strong links here now. And I think it's an important thing. And, you know, I would hate to see artists go, and people working in the arts, go through something like this again without any form of safety net.
Right. So if people who are listening and watching want to give to your fund, where should they go?
We have a great website. It's www.freelanceartistrelief.com.
Freelanceartistrelief.com. I'm saying it with a French accent to make sure the French people.
Merci les Français. Yeah, no, it's great. And we've done, like Etienne and I did an online concert, because nothing can be live right now, for our donors. And, you know, it's hard. In other times you'd be able to do small things to say thank you to people in person, and we unfortunately haven't been able to yet, but they are so appreciated. And it's been such a positive thing for me through all of this negativity to really feel like you're able to help people and make a difference, you know?
Right. Absolutely. And well, this is a beautiful initiative. Nicole, I think the clock has moved. It was a pleasure.
Man, I talk too much. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. I love it. And your personality in this setting is the same as the one on stage, and that's why the whole industry and so many people in the public absolutely adore you. And we should try to find a reason to see each other in Paris, and you know, because now in Paris we need to have those excuses that we write to ourselves.
Oh my gosh, I
Well,
could walk my dog 1 kilometer towards you,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you could walk 1 kilometer towards
Or it
me.
could be a professional meeting, you know. I mean,
Well, that would work, wouldn't it?
But
I mean, we're practically neighbors.
let's be safe, and let's
Yes, of course.
control that terrible pandemic. And I want to do also a show with Etienne, your partner, husband. Sorry, may I ask, are you married?
Yes, yeah, he's my husband.
Your husband. And so I will do this. Thank you so much. It was wonderful to see you, and I hope to see you on stage or in the street of Paris very soon. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
Take care.